But G6 and that level of hit that was, I mean, it was #1 on the Hot 100. It's like, it was like the peak, thing you could possibly do. Really distorted my sense of how music works. Yeah. Because I was like, I just make a hit and it's just the #1 song in the fucking 12 countries,
We're all good. We'll do 1, 2, 3 and a clap. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Perfect pre-shifted cashmere clap.
Yep. There we go, baby. I'm going to need that one.
That's right. Okay. What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Ferrari.
My name's Parker Immense.
We are Excellent Sound, and we are gathered. Dude, I was trying to think of your intro, and it's literally would take the entire podcast to name the amount of accolades that you have and the amount of people that you've worked with, the amount of songs that you've worked on, right?
Yeah.
All the stuff that you've done. It's an honor to have you here, Niles.
Thank you
Kashmir.
so much, man.
Yep.
Very, very excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, bro. I appreciate it.
We got so much to talk about.
Yeah.
We know that you got
You got to tell them how this started,
yes,
too. I just got a cold text message.
Yes, this is great. So, okay. We'll start off with that because I did want to bring that up. We had Afrojack on the podcast.
Okay.
And Afrojack was talking about, there was a producer that he was wanting to work for. Was it?
Dimension.
It was Dimension, right? It was a drum and bass guy, right?
Super sick.
And, they had talked, and Afrojack's, he's ginormous, right?
He's a big guy.
And so he was just talking about how he would just hey, hit him up. And he kind of had to follow him up a bunch.
Yeah. Ruthless.
And I was like, damn, that's super sick. Right. So I started thinking about that. And with the podcast, we've been growing the podcast, which has been awesome. We've been a big part of the producer community for a long time.
Big time.
And I saw that you had commented on one of our things.
Yeah. The Dylan one.
Yes.
I fucking love Dylan.
Dylan's the man, bro.
He's the man.
So you commented on one of them, and I actually had your number from years ago. You were looking for an intern, and I had a mutual friend that knew you, which was Pat Ridge from Hypercrush, and then there was this other guy, Justin Sizer.
Oh my God, Hypercrush.
Yes, Hypercrush, right? And so in my mind, I was like, because I was with Icon, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you were looking for somebody to help.
Yes, it was, yeah.
And we did a couple phone interviews, and I remember being like, oh man, this is so sick. I hope I can get this. I'm glad you didn't hire me.
It was for the best.
Yeah, obviously, right?
That would have changed the future
I know,
so much.
I probably wouldn't have been doing this. But anyway, but I had your number, and we had talked a couple times, and after hearing that Afrojack thing and seeing you comment, I was sitting with Parker. I was like, dude, we were talking about podcasts. We're getting a lot of guests on. Yeah. And I was like, dude, I have Niles' number in my phone. I think it's still him. What if I just shot him a cold text being like, yo, do you want to come on the podcast?
Yeah.
Which I'm curious to hear your side of it now that we've talked and shit. But so I just sent you a text message, and I think this only works if you've actually I had your number for a reason. I didn't I didn't want to freak you out and be like, yo, and bug you. I was like, I'm a normal dude. I'm not gonna I'm gonna ask, and that's it. And I shot my shot, and you were like, oh yeah, you're from Excellent. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So tell me from your perspective.
Well, I think the cold request thing it doesn't work if you're just asking for something,
right?
But if you've already built a name for yourself a little bit, and you can kind of poke into what somebody's interested in, obviously I like talking about music and production, and doing it with people who have prove that they know. I could probably learn a lot from you guys, honestly. So you poke the right button for me, I mean, that's how you do it. I think a lot of people do cold requests, listen to my music.
Yes.
Help me become a DJ.
Yes.
Help me become and I'm like, that's so much work you're asking. You want me to go do work for you, basically, for free,
100%.
But this is fun, and I had just seen Dylan's.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Actually, it's funny, Dylan, I was using Reason back in the day.
Oh, we wanted to ask you about that. That's awesome. Okay.
And he was the one who came over, and he's like, dude, this is ridiculous. He's like, this is insane. He's like, you need to sidechain, and you're unplugging wires
in the
through
back
a
of it.
screen, because that's what
wild.
Reason is. And he was like, dude, you need to switch to Ableton. And so I did. And so Dylan, early on when I was starting to make dance music, was kind of like a mentor for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah, I don't know if he would call it. I mean, it was just a few times that we hung out and worked on music, but I was very nervous about going into dance music because here's guys who've been doing it for years and years, and you don't want to do it whack, you know?
Yeah.
You want to do it authentic, and so I was kind of back to being a learner. You know, I had my whole career in hip hop and everything with the Cataracts, but I was sort of back to square one. And so he was the first guy who really knew what he was doing and was willing to take the time and show me stuff. So
that's awesome because you know he shared with us that he had the same experience with somebody else that definitely helped him.
Yeah.
So that's cool to hear you say that, and it's also interesting to hear you say that because in my mind, I knew you of the Cataracts before I knew of Kashmir, even though it was around the same time. And I thought that you were actually on the more like the precipice of like the first EDM. Like I look at you as like an OG. Like
thank you, man.
I mean,
I think that is kind of what I am now, which is weird to
for
say.
sure.
Yeah.
It's an. I think take it as a compliment because it's an honor. You're for sure. I mean, you've done a lot in the industry, and I think a lot of people, you know, I think some of them know that, but I think they need to know what you've done.
Oh, well, thank you.
And especially with the producer community, and that's another reason why I was so happy to have you on here too.
Yeah.
I know you care about producers.
Yeah, I do. I mean, at the end of the day, I think I'm just a nerdy computer guy, right? And then I saw that I love the music, and I saw that there was a way for me to make it exploiting my obsession with computers and and I think, you know, call it autism or whatever. I have a really high threshold for repetition.
Yeah.
You know, I can go in there on the same fucking 4-bar loop and I can do it. It could be what I do this entire day, you know, and it'll be fun to me, you know, and I get into a weird sort of trance with it. And that was good for dance music, really good. In the pop world, I think I ran into a wall a little bit because we were just talking about Benny before. So I used to work with Benny. I used to work with Luke. And here are guys who would always have a really great kind of simple vision of what the song needs to be, you know? And me, I always wanted to get caught in the weeds of the production.
Oh, yeah.
And then Luke would stop me. He's like, dude, you're doing too much. Like, so I asked you to do one thing. I remember that was the thing. Okay, it goes back to my first job. I was a busser at a Mexican restaurant. And I had oversold how much Spanish I spoke. It was a terrible job. Like, I was always getting things wrong. And the lady would always be yelling at me because I would be cleaning a table for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And she's like, the fucking table is clean. Like, there's 20 other tables, you know? And that in school, that was hard for me to transition, like mentally. I love getting into a thing and just really diving deep in it. And with pop music, I think a really important skill that guys like Benny and Luke had was to see kind of an overall vision for it. And they would have other producers or other guys help them out. I think Benny would be first to say he's not like, you know, from some fucking classical like musician or anything. And Luke, when I was working with them, he was in his Circuit era. So Circuit was the one on Cubase, and Luke would be in the room with the guitar. I mean, the guy is a genius. He was like the lead guitarist or whatever on SNL. I mean, he's absolute genius. But, you know, he would be seeing in much more broad strokes, like a broad picture. And I'm not a big delegating guy. I've tried to incorporate it more, but really my passion is to sit there and do the fucking ones and zeros and tweak something until something beautiful comes out of it. And it didn't always agree with pop music, but in dance music, that felt very like I was rewarded for it, you know? And
interesting.
So I once I found dance music and transitioned into it, I was much more at ease. And I had a less of an inferiority complex when I went into dance music. I'm like, oh, wait, the thing that I really love to do is good here. It works here, you know?
The tweaking is definitely, like, appreciated, I think, in dance music.
For sure.
It's interesting, though, because, like, when I had actually, I was friends with a drummer in a band called Shiny Toy Guns.
Okay.
And the first time I ever saw you play, I saw the Cataracts play, and I think it was, like, some festival, something out here.
Okay.
And you guys, I think, were playing after them. And it was right at the time when EDM was really starting to pop off. Yeah. And I think it was you, and I don't know the other guy's name. I'm sorry.
David.
David. Okay. Yeah. So you and David were up there, and I think I remember seeing a laptop and a MIDI keyboard, like an M Audio, like 25 key.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, "What the fuck are these guys doing?" Yeah. Right? And I was so confused.
We didn't know either, by the way.
You did though, because what I realized later on, I was like, "Oh my god, these guys were doing like EDM."
Yeah.
Because it's like there. I think that there's a definitely a good argument to be made about how the Cataracts were able to transition that pop sound electronically, and then for you to take that into the EDM world and start doing what you did with Kashmir.
Yeah,
you know,
there was a funny overlap towards the end of the Cataracts. I mean, we started out as hip hop guys, so we were both rapping, and then when Like a G6 happened, the emphasis became more on us being producers. So then when we perform towards the end of it, it was like we kind of rap, and then we play beats that we made, and then I was sort of pushing for like more of like a DJ set, which was strange to people because we'd show up to like a college and they knew us from songs like Bass Down Low, Top of the World, Like a G6. We'd play those songs, and then I would like play different music from other people, and then some people would just stare at us like, what the fuck
that
is
was
this?
me. I was so confused.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're playing other people's songs. I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know?
And I was like, no, this works.
Yeah.
Because I've been to shows where people play other people's music and play the remix and stuff, and I was like, no, this is a thing.
Yeah.
Trust me. But America hadn't totally transitioned into like understanding dance music and everything.
And I remember that specific festival, the crowd was going absolutely nuts. And I remember, like, I swear to God, I remember having this thought. I'm like, these guys are playing, because I knew about the Cataracts and your guys' songs. I'm like, they're playing other people's songs.
Yeah.
And people are they went the absolute nuttiest out of all of them. So it was like right at the right time.
Yeah.
And then obviously
sometimes it would totally work. Sometimes it was like, people would just stare at us and be like, we paid for this. You know?
Damn.
It had to go off on the college routes, though, right? I mean, just the party scene, right?
Yeah, the party scene was great, and we, you know, our music didn't start out this way, but we became like the party song guys, you know? It's crazy what having a song as big as Like a G6 can do, because now everyone's just like, oh, just make something like that. And then sometimes it would work. Like Bass Down Low, I thought was good, and Top of the World was a good one. And then Dev's, you know, I produced a lot for her, and she had a great one with Dancing in the Dark. So it's like sometimes I would able to nail it with making a party song, but I'm not. It's weird because I'm not like naturally a party guy. I was never like the popular guy in high school or a guy who shows up to clubs and it's like girls want to talk to them. I was like the guy who like freeze. I would spend the whole night saying I'm going to talk to this girl, and then some other guy would talk to her and be like, this is just how it goes again. You know? Now it's, I kind of came into myself, but, you know, especially at that time when I was trying to figure myself out, and now I've been enlisted to be the guy who makes party anthems. I did my best, you know, but at a certain point it ended, and when I found Kashmir, it was like a weight off a little bit, you know, because sometimes your success outgrows you, and now you're just trying to live up to the success a little bit, you know.
Yeah, that must have felt really weird to feel like that thing was bigger than you. And also, it sounds like it sounds like obviously you enjoyed it, but it sounds like there was maybe a little bit of lack of fulfillment on the sense of like the creativity part, because you wanted to sit down and you wanted to tweak and nerd out a little bit on some stuff. Yeah. And that makes sense brand wise too. Like the Cataracts was that you know, LMFAO, like that was hot at that time. You know what I mean? Like that whole branding.
I mean, Kanye.
Yeah, we were talking about it. Lady Gaga too back then. I was telling him, I was like, dude, Lady Gaga was kind of like, because I think she was like a top liner before Lady Gaga, right?
Oh, was she? I didn't know.
I've heard. I'm asking you because I feel like you would know more than me. But I'd heard that. But just
Lady
during
Gaga
that time, it was
was
this
definitely a
party anthem sort of vibe. Her earlier stuff, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's cool. So like back then, were you doing Reason, or were you already in Ableton at that point?
Yeah, I was in Reason. So Reason didn't even have fucking audio like recording back then. So I would make a beat in Reason and then transfer it to Acid. You remember Acid?
Sony Acid.
Sony Acid, yeah. And so, you know, it was kind of nice for how committal it was, because I would make a beat, and now I look back at my old beats from that time, and they're like 8 layers or something.
Yeah.
And I would bounce out the stems and bring it into Acid, and whatever arrangement I wanted to do, I would do it in Acid. All I had to make was kind of like an 8-bar loop of some different sections in Reason, and then I would print it and bring it into Acid. Yeah, if you guys want to see, I brought in some of my old Reason files.
That would be so cool. That would be super cool.
Dude, I'm happy to show you.
That was my first experience producing into MIDI-wise. I was trying to learn how to do Pro Tools, and I was like, how do I make drums? Because the MIDI in Pro Tools is god-awful.
Yeah,
and
the worst.
And I figured out what Reason was, and I would start using Reason to program drums.
Oh, cool.
So I have like a little bit of understanding.
Rewire it into...
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Right, yeah.
So then eventually, you get out of Reason and then you jump into Ableton. But I believe you were going to ask something. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just got excited.
No, I was just going to talk about, I learned on like DP, Reason, and
oh shit, what was DP again?
Digital Performer.
Digital Performer. Wait, was that anything like Sonar?
Yeah, I think it
Cakewalk
turned
and all
into
that shit,
Cakewalk.
dude.
Okay, it turned into Cakewalk. Right, right.
But that was like, I learned MIDI in DP, and it was the weirdest software. It was on Windows, like, very strange.
I like you say that.
that.
It was so weird. It was on Windows.
Yeah.
I had to put
Yeah,
that in
you
there,
got
too, because
to-
it was just so confusing.
That
man.
send a lot of people into a rage.
I
right there
know.
with the flame
Yeah.
up.
Hey everyone, I just want to take a quick second to celebrate the anniversary of Gorilla. It's been an entire year since we released the Gorilla series, and it's no secret why it's the most popular pack to date. So we've decided to do something really cool. We decided to create the ultimate Gorilla anniversary bundle for you guys. This bundle is going to include 400 SERUM presets, a ton of samples, and 11 Ableton Remake project files from some of your favorite artists like Skrillex, Virtual Riot, and Fred Again. For those of you that have already purchased Gorilla's early access, don't worry, we got you covered. For the first time ever, we are actually including an expansion pack for Gorilla available on our site now. It's gonna have new SERUM presets in the same style of multi-genre, and of course, 5 new Ableton Remake project files from Skrillex and Fred Again. And if you missed out on your chance to get all of the original project files from the early access bundle, we got those on our site for you too. We got a ton of different options for you guys, celebrating the holidays all the way up to the end of the year. So make sure you guys go check out the link in the description and go get your copy of your Gorilla's Ultimate Anniversary Bundle today. Let's jump back into the podcast.
So during your transition from like the pop hip hop stuff into EDM, how different was it with collaboration and like looking for placements for releases?
Well, so the way that let's see, towards the end of my pop career, I was mostly just making music for other people. Like, some of it clicked. Like, I worked with Enrique, and I did an album for Enrique, all in Reason somehow.
That is so wild.
So fucking wild, dude.
Oh my gosh.
I low-key kick myself for just not learning Ableton sooner. It was extremely limiting, but yeah, so I was doing those projects, but you know, there was kind of enough time to work on other stuff, and my friend, I don't know if it's weird, I'll just say this once and for all.
Let's do it.
Yeah, okay. I started out ghost producing.
Yeah.
But it was not an ugly thing, okay? John, if you're out there, this is gonna be the day that everybody learns explicitly how everything
Let 'em know,
happened,
bro.
okay? I'll let him know. So John was our friend in LA who was a promoter at the club. And he was a
Yeah.
really
Oh.
cool guy. He'd always take care of everybody. And if I wanted to go out, he'd take care of me. And he'd DJ also. He went by Borges.
Yeah.
And so he was performing at the clubs. He was kind of introducing me to like the club scene and what people are playing at the clubs. And, you know, he wanted to get his thing going, but he didn't know how to produce, right? So he said, hey, would you help me work on music? At this point, it's a little bit different than what people think a ghost producer. Usually they think like, oh, it's some small guy who's doing all the work for some big guy.
Yeah.
In this case, I had my whole career. You know,
Yeah.
I had made a lot of money from G6, had a big hit and everything. I looked at it like, hey, I want to help out my friend and help out with his music. So
Totally.
So we worked out some agreement that was basically like, I'll work on your music for you. I don't need any money or anything, but if you start playing shows and doing well with this, you just give me a cut, right? It was friends first. It wasn't some dark, weird, thing.
Yeah.
And so we were working on songs together. We put together some pretty good songs, and then one day he had a session with Dubs, and he was like, yeah, they're a big deal. They have a good name. And Spinnin' was giving them the direction. I forget where it came from. Like Animals is this new big song. You should do something like Animals.
Yeah.
And in trying to copy Animals, I inadvertently made Tsunami, the drop for Tsunami, and I have that project too. I'll show it to you guys.
Amazing.
But there was only one guy making fucking good presets, right? For a reason back then. And I'm blanking on his name, but we're going to find it when I open up the project. And he had done a preset trying to be like Sandra Silva is Epic. You remember Epic?
Yeah.
It was a big room song. And it didn't sound like Epic, but it was the patch for Tsunami. It was like the main thing. So I stole the kick from Epic.
Nice. You just took it straight out of the...
Straight up took it from Epic because, dude, at the level I was at with producing dance music, I could never have made a kick.
I was going to ask you where the kick came from Tsunami because I've heard that too. Which is awesome.
That's the culture of EDM, though, is just to take kicks.
Animals is the same thing. He stole that kick too as well.
He did steal that kick.
And he talks about it too.
Yeah, from like a Showtech
Showtech song.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
from Cannonball, maybe?
I think
Okay.
there's a clip where you can see he talks about when he's talking about animals where he says the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, but go ahead. So you take the kick.
So it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. So anyway, took the kick and did. Yeah, I had the drop and so anyway, yeah. I think I wanted it to sound like a Spartan anthem, and it said "This is Sparta" before the drop.
Nice.
And then Dubs came in. They liked the idea, and it had all the kind of orchestral build-up stuff. They wanted to change it to Tsunami. They had the name idea, and they had some ideas for adding some like super saws or something.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, everybody played some kind of role. To be politically correct, everybody did play some sort of role in that song, no doubt about it. And that song blew up. It became a super big song for Spinnin'. And that led them to be a little bit curious about me because my name was on the contract. And I was getting the confidence to like really start my own project, start the Kashmir thing. So the Spinnin' guys came to LA and they wanted to have a meeting with me. And I told them this grand idea that I had. I wanted to do really cinematic, dark sounding stuff that was sort of antithetical to the happy European EDM that was popular, right? I wanted to be like the dark Antichrist.
Dark room.
Yeah, whatever. You know, I don't think I'm really, but that was fun to me as a project, as a concept. That was really fun to me. So, so they were like, "All right, dude." You know, I had done one song.
You did Tsunami.
Totally,
you can do what you want. I feel like
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, it wasn't the most complicated song. Sometimes those songs just work. It's not necessarily an indicator that you're going to be able to realize all these other big ideas that you have.
Yeah.
But they put their faith into me and they say, "Hey, we'll give you the platform to put out some songs." And at the time, Spinnin' was like the equivalent of, you know, getting like the radio to play your songs.
It was
like
huge.
back when they could just flip a switch and Britney Spears became Britney Spears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spinnin' was kind of like that for dance music, where you put out a song and it would just get 300,000 hits the first day, you know, and it would only grow from there. And so you say, well, yeah, I put out, you know, some pretty, now that I listen back to them, low-grade EDM songs that were made in Reason also before I made a switch. And Megalodon was the first one. And you know, I think it worked. It wasn't the best song, to be honest, but it had this video where it looked like a normal Spinnin' video, where it was like some hot girls getting ready to go out on the water, and you know, and they're like hanging out, and then just huge shark just eats them. You know? I don't know. It was
love that.
Yeah, I was having fun with that. Like, I'm gonna be the anti everything. Yeah, but it gave me the splash that I needed, and I wasn't touring, so that was my edge over other guys. I would just produce every fucking day, and in the first couple of years, I didn't show my face because I didn't want the connection to the Cataracts, and I got a really big leg up because I would just made so many songs, you know, and put out a lot of songs.
That was such a fun time too.
Yeah,
the big
it
room
was.
era,
It
like,
was,
and you were right. You were right there, and you were
Yeah.
such a big part of it, man. I mean,
Thank you, man.
I was
Yeah.
a big. I mean, I still am. I still talk about Big Room to this day.
Yeah, you for sure do.
I loved Tsunami. I loved Stampede too, which
Oh,
I don't think
wow.
a lot of people
Yeah.
like. Stampede to me was like the Tsunami 2, right? And one of our questions was because I think you had came to Icon and you had maybe shared a little bit about that. And like just to be able to to talk about that experience in that time is just so interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So most of that stuff, the early Kashmir stuff, was produced on Reason, is what you're saying.
The very early stuff, yeah. I forget at which point I moved on to Ableton, but by the time I did Secrets, I was definitely in Ableton. Karate was definitely in Ableton. These songs might not mean anything to the new generation, but
I'm
at the
sure
time,
they know
these
what
were big.
Secrets are, bro. That's a huge
they have
song,
to.
bro.
They
With
have to
Tiesto,
know.
bro.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's also around the time that I really started getting to Kontakt.
Yes.
And that was kind of a big player in the story of Kashmir, I think, because it opened up all these real instruments to me. I'm half Indian, and incorporating Indian sounds finally became something I could do.
Yeah.
So there was just a lot of like dreams that were starting to come true musically. It was like an absolutely roaring period in my creativity, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are like the king of Kontakt.
Yeah,
I
we're
am
gonna
a
talk about
Kontakt
that,
You
guy.
honestly really are.
I will take that.
Yes.
It is so
Yeah.
difficult. We gotta we want to understand your brain in Kontakt, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real. Like I think you put it perfectly. Like you had all of these dreams and imaginations of working with orchestras and all of these ethnic instruments.
Yeah.
And like Kontakt just brings that all to your fingertips, and you like exploited that.
Yes.
Man,
Yeah,
you know?
thank you, man. I mean, going back to hip hop, my favorite beats were like these samples that would sample from like other cultures and everything. And Dre did it. What was the Dre song they had with Truth Hurts? You remember her? He had this song. He did one song for her, but it was a smash. Anyways, like an Indian sample.
We'll look it up.
Yeah. So especially like, I don't know, Britney Spears, right? What was her Toxic? You
Toxic,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, like
Oh yeah, she had that intro sample.
yeah, it was all it was a
strings.
Bollywood sample.
Oh, it was?
And, yeah.
Okay.
And so like that always really did something for me, you know. And Cameron, you remember he would like all of his songs he'd sample. He would sample like Girls Just Want to Have Fun and stuff. And whenever there was like that mixture, that really did a lot for me. So I saw this big opening for orchestral cinematic music,
Yes.
and also like world ethnic music and with EDM, and that was cool. There's something so EDM where it didn't really appeal to me was when it was just like synths and kind of different variations of the same sort of synths. Like even though it's beautiful, there's like a lot of trance that wouldn't really appeal to me because it's just like, oh, it's the exact same palette every time, you know?
Sandstorm.
Well, Sandstorm, that lead, right?
The
that
lead was
lead is
beautiful.
special, man.
Yeah.
I think
You
you're
know?
talking about
Yeah.
like the big sort of SERUM like melody thing. Like you've heard that a bunch, and then it's like the drop is you know, maybe it's just another like pluck saw or
when
something.
drops are just a rhythmic thing, you know, I'm not as into that. I really do love a big
see.
melody. And, you know, fast forwarding to today, I think where my creativity definitely where sometimes I'm not sure how I fit into modern dance music is because the move has been so much towards just groove. And not having a big melody that's right in your face. It's more about creating like a cool groove, or you see with the new John Summit tracks, like the drop will just be the vocal again, right? He'll do a lot of that. He's not like, now here's the big drop, anthemic melody. And so it's I'm trying to get into that and to try to see how that works for me also, but I get such the itch to add more melody and more melody. Yeah.
But that's authentic.
What do you think about the melodic techno wave right now? 'Cause
I do like that.
That's pretty melodic, right?
Yes, I do like that, and some of it is bordering on big room a little bit.
Yeah.
You're just doing like an anti-drop kind of thing.
It's a drier big room.
Yeah, it's like a drier big room. So I guess where I'm at, I'm doing stuff like in one of the projects. So I brought projects that range from all the way back to G6, and then to Tsunami, which was kind of a turning point, to Wild Card, which was a big room track that I was really proud of for how much, you know, it was kind of like the peak of me fitting everything I knew about production into one song. And then I got a really recent song that's not even out yet, which is, I would say it's melodic techno. Yeah, it's like 123, but it's my spin on it. So
awesome.
Yeah, I do like it. Where it becomes this cyberpunk cyborg AI, I just one guy can do it.
Yeah.
You know, one guy can do it.
Sure.
You know, it's like, you know when you see everyone wearing Supreme shirts and it's just like, oh, you have a special thing for Supreme, huh?
Yeah.
Like it really spoke to your fashion sense, right? Like, or are you just buying it because the next fucking guy bought it?
Yeah.
You know? I believe one guy in the beginning did feel a pure connection to Supreme or Louis Vuitton or whatever it is.
Hearts.
But when you're all fucking doing it, I'm just not buying that that's your authentic self.
Yeah.
You know? So when everyone's doing the AI robot, I'm just like, it was cool the first time I heard it. I'm just not buying that as like, I'm really getting a peek into who you are as an artist. It sort of feels like you bought the 2024 melodic techno package.
Totally.
You know, but as a tool, if you do your own thing with it, then absolutely. And so yeah, I'm not taking shots at anybody, but for me, it's been hard recently to figure out. It's too much to just say be your authentic self. Like you be your authentic self. And in the Venn diagram of everything that's going on in your authentic self, you find the middle point, you know? And that middle point was definitely more clear to me in the big room days. Because like, oh, just write a big anthemic fucking melody. That's exactly what I love. And I'll just work all day and night to find that. And now it's a little bit like, oh, even if I find that, that's not the cool thing, you know? And so trying to find what bangs, what I want to play live, and what still feels current, and you know, it's there somewhere, but it's definitely humbled me, and I kind of have to stop going to my regular tools, and I kind of have to be a student again. Sometimes I feel like, sorry, I'm going on a rant, but
no, this is what it's for, brother.
Yeah.
Go off, Queen.
Well, thank you, man. Sometimes I feel like maybe I should just stop creating altogether and take 6 months and just learn and sign up for like classes like everyone else does for production and stuff, and just because when you achieve a certain level of success, like it's you become a little bit paralyzed. Like everyone's telling you you're good, and you're not learning as much, you know. And sometimes I feel like I need to get hit with that stick to be like, yo, you don't have the toolkit right now for where everything is going, or maybe you don't have the toolkit, and you need to stop and take a breath and not just put out the next song, put out the next. You need to just be a student again. I'm feeling like that a little bit right now. Yeah,
interesting.
It's such an interesting take. Because that all makes sense coming from the type of producer you are. Yeah. You know, we haven't had a ghost producer on the show or a producer that is strictly a producer. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's very refreshing to hear that, because I feel like if more people had that sense of, hey, I got to go back and learn. Yeah. Man. There would be a lot more that would be different.
How do you guys divide up your time? Because you teach also, right?
Yes.
And when you're teaching, you're the smart guy. But how do you divide it up with being the dumb guy? And I want to learn, you know, not dumb guy, but you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, for me personally, I learn things from the students that I teach, you know, and in repetition, like you were saying, I learn things that I forgot about, you know, and I bring it back to light. Yeah. But I do also enjoy tutorials and learning, especially in music production. Yeah. So I do have that side of my time that I just spend learning from tutorials.
Yeah. A follow-up question.
Yeah.
When you watch tutorials, are there some things they do you hate, and then some?
All the time?
Okay, like
all the time.
What? Like what?
I would have to think of like a specific. You know, what I would really hate was in Ableton when you would make an instrument rack and have a dry and a wet signal. Yeah. And that was how you blend the dry and wet. You duplicate it in the instrument instead of using the aux end.
Yes.
And
you're an aux guy?
I'm an aux guy.
But I hate you.
That was that was my Pro Tools head, you know? But I've gotten used to it. Now I do it because it's faster.
Right.
You know?
No, I guess I meant more about the people giving you tutorials, like their habits, or sometimes people give little anecdotes and stuff. Are you an anecdote guy, or do you want the goods?
I enjoy the anecdotes. Yeah. I enjoy it.
I feel like for me, like the study has become, I mean, like what you're saying, like definitely there's times where I will like pick up a tutorial, but it's usually related to something we're doing for XLNT, right? Okay. For me, the biggest education that I will always do, I don't care how popular or successful I will get, is just like a student of the game, is the whole like remaking something. Because that had the biggest impact on me personally, is when I started trying to actually remake other people's songs. I learned sound design, I learned song structure, I learned how to mix better, I really, really got into analyze. So I feel like if I'm trying to sharpen my tools, I'm going to pick a song that inspires me and I'm going to dissect it. We did it with Skrillex. We're like, hey, how is Skrillex so good at what he does, his sound design, right? And what we decided to do is we went back in time and we said, what was he doing in the very beginning, right? What kind of tools was he using? And then by doing that, trying to understand those tools and those techniques, you can kind of see how he got to where he is now, and he's using the similar types of techniques that he did. Yeah. And then when it comes to like tutorials, the thing that bothers me the worst, I think it just on a sense of just enjoying a tutorial, is like tutorials they're not usually fun to watch. Yeah. They're just not. So I don't think that everybody has to be like an extrovert, like entertainment like thing. Yeah. That's our personality. That's what we like to do. Yeah. Because we are trying to keep it interesting, because talking about knobs, like, and telling you which knobs to turn here and there, like, can get a little bit boring. So I feel like in the tutorial sense, I want to see people who give tutorials to put more passion into it, even if they're not the most extroverted person, but put some type of passion or identity behind it so people can connect with you, because that's what we've tried to do. And then the other thing is just straight not being honest about what it is you're doing. I hate it when people pretend like they really know what they're doing when they really don't. I think it's cool when somebody says, I don't really know why this works, but I know that it does.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that because I'm like, yeah, okay. Like,
and then in the comments, somebody knows.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And then they put their 2 cents in.
Yeah.
Or saying this sound is this, and it's like, no, it's not. Like anybody, I could take my grandma's not alive, but I could show my grandma 2 sounds, and I could be like, did these sound the same? And you would have no musical experience, but everybody can tell that they don't sound the same.
Right.
So that like sort of thing kind of gets me when it comes to like the tutorial side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like always like, I don't know for you if you've ever tried to do remaking, but like picking a song, it could be something that's not even EDM related. It could be a totally other song that you're like, this is sick. Like, how did they do that? And then like trying to figure out the magic trick essentially.
Yeah. I think when I'm working on the sound packs, I do remake kind of stuff, like trying to figure out like kicks and snares and stuff. And I remember one thing that we got really caught up on the last one was reggaeton snares.
Dude.
So the stuff that happens on the syncopated beats, you know, like boom,
Yes.
and it's not just any snare you can pull out and work it. It is like almost, some of them are heavy. They got toms attached to them and everything. And when it grooves, you know it grooves right. You know, and I was watching the guy who actually used a big reggaeton producer, and he had a kick on a sampler, and the kick on the 1 and the kick on the 3 were a different pitch. He would boot one note on the sampler and different. So you get this go, ba boom ba 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 boom ba. And I was like, I never would have thought. I would just thought every kick, you know. So that, but remaking all the way through songs, or like even parts of songs, maybe I did that earlier. But that's another thing that I think maybe I'm getting stuck now, because even when I hear about remaking, well, I'm not gonna fucking.
You don't want to do it.
I remake somebody else's song.
Yeah.
But I will say I download remakes though, and then I pick those apart.
Interesting.
So I guess I'm too lazy, maybe.
No, if you're getting something out of it, that's the whole point.
Yes.
It's just like that for me personally.
Yeah.
That excites me. It's like, I just got a new puzzle.
Yeah.
I want to put this puzzle together or figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it's not like inspiring you to like to learn something new that way, if it is downloading project files or whatever, like that's great too. Like that's a great way.
Maybe I kick myself eventually, because I still don't think I'm the best sound designer, really. Like from scratch, making a sound.
Crazy to hear you say that.
I'm a preset guy. I'm really just I'm a big preset guy. But 2.0, where like I know how, if something's not working about preset, I know exactly how to change it and everything.
Totally.
But starting from scratch, getting to a sound, I just don't have the stomach for it. I'm like, I have 5,000 amazing presets I've collected. I can spend 10 minutes on this one. And I guess you know what my problem is with creating a preset is I'm going to develop an attachment to this preset because I made it.
Sure.
And I'm going to want to defend it, and I'm going to want to think this is a good preset.
That's so interesting.
You know,
that is a good thought for sure.
That's kind of a thing in general with making music, that the more time you spend on something, you're going to be a defender of it because you invested. It's like the sunken time cost fallacy, whatever. It's a concept.
Yeah.
But if you've worked on something a lot, you want to. So early on, when you need to paint in broad strokes and make big decisions, the less time you have to invest in each one, I think is important. That's why I'll pull up a lot. I'll have like a little templates of, you know, maybe a past drop that I did that's like a melodic techno thing or whatever, just to see, is this vibe going to work with this song? And if it's not, then I can quickly go on to the next one without spending too much time. Because if it takes me an hour or however long it would take to, let's say, I have a vocal, I want to see how it goes in a melodic techno kind of vibe. After I spent that hour on it, I'm going to have a subjective attachment to it, you know, and getting away from that. I try to get away from that as much as I can. So I'm defending my inability to make sounds is what I'm doing. But
that's so interesting that you say that, because as a producer, how do you detach yourself from a song that you're producing for somebody else?
Yeah.
Is it the same vibe, or are you always attached to that song?
That's interesting. When I'm producing it for somebody else?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's been a long time since I really produced anything other than just a Kashmir song. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I totally understand.
So you were saying that the longer you spend creating a sound, the more attachment you have to it.
Yeah.
So when you're producing for somebody else or writing a song for somebody else, do you have that same attachment to the song? Like
as if it was like a Kashmir.
As if it were a sound.
Like, is it easier for me to be like, oh, it needs to go in a different direction if I've spent a lot of time creating a sound in one direction?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I do get attached to other people's. If I've worked on it a lot, I become attached to it, and it takes hearing it on fresh ears, or maybe getting fucked up. Honestly, like getting drunk or doing some drugs or whatever. Anything to put you in a kind of a different headspace. Being around people also helps a lot, you know? Like, if you have a song and then everybody's partying, everyone's together, and you play it for them, you'll know right away, within 10 seconds, if this is clicking for the vibe or not, you know? And you can make decisions in broad strokes much more clearly than when you were in the studio on hour 10 of mixing it or whatever. So I don't know if it gets easier. I mean, I think the proportion is the same. The more you work on it, the less likely you are to see vastly different directions that it could go. But when you engage in those you add the variables, you add the drinking or getting kind of fucked up or doing it around people, especially doing it around girls, you know. Girls like stuff and they don't like stuff, and they're not as quick to get into the weeds of the technical stuff and appreciate you for every little, you know, snare and stuff that you put in there. The girls just be like, I don't like it. You know, I'm not fucking vibing with this shit, you know, and that's very important too. So not sure if I totally understood or answered the question fully, but yeah, I think you have to. One big philosophical thing I've tried to teach when I give classes is you got two brains at work here. You've got the like dumb monkey brain, and then you've got the sort of one who's whipping it around, and you know how to get good results out of it. If you let the monkey brain, who's doing all the work, it's the more conscious brain. It's the one that it goes. You know, it's not getting checked. The one that's not getting checked might work on a song for 8, 9, 10 hours, thinks it like it. There's got to be the other part of you that knows that your brain is capable of weakness, is capable of short-sightedness, of blindsidedness, and so you create an environment that limits those blind spots, right? You make sure you don't work on a song for too long, or you come back to it fresh ears, or you send it to somebody, and you do these things. Like another thing, when I'm working on a project and it gets too complicated, that is a big driver for not thinking creatively anymore. You are now this juggler of 100 tracks, you know, and making big decisions becomes incredibly difficult. So I'll bounce to stems. Sometimes I'll divide a song into multiple sections. Especially with my old stuff, I would have a drop project file and a break project file that would allow my brain to think the way it should, the way that's closer to the beginning when there were only 5, 6 tracks and I was thinking creatively. That first few hours you work on a song, you're really trying to stay in that mindset for the whole other 100 hours, you know, that you're working on. So the things that you could do to help are limit the number of tracks that you're having to look at, or coming back on fresh ears. All these things make you a little bit more like a listener for the first time when you first open the project.
That's a great tip, man.
Yeah, that's a huge tip. Yeah. Because I feel like we struggle with that a lot, you know, where we either lose the big picture and we're in the weeds, or we're all about the big picture and we're not focusing enough on the little details that make it special.
But you know what? Those little details you can always do at the end, I feel, you know? Like when you've got the bread and butter. I just work with this guy, DeVault. You know DeVault?
Sounds very familiar.
He's a super sick producer. And yeah, he's not really as big as he should be, but he's incredible. Anyway, I wanted to get a session with him for a long time. We finally worked on something. It was unbelievable. I had this song idea with this vocal and guitar, and he mapped out the whole thing in just a couple hours from beginning to end.
The whole structure?
Yeah, the whole structure, you know? And it sounded pretty good, especially for me being on the couch. Like, the guy on the couch thinks everything sounds 50% better than you do because you're not looking at the project and everything. He's just like, you know, I'm sitting back there and I'm rocking. I'm just letting him do his thing. And then by the end, he had the whole thing structured out. Now I'm looking at it. I know all the bells and whistles I can add, but at least I have a full fucking song.
Yeah.
You know, he was a genius just for that. I think he's a genius.
Wow.
Yeah.
But if that took you a very long time to get to that point, if it took you 8 hours to get to that point to where you finally have a structure, do you feel like your vibe would be completely killed on the song? Like it would be hard for you to get excited about it at that point?
Yeah. If it's taking you 8 hours, right? So like a longer time.
Because you're talking about like I think there's two like philosophies when it comes to like making music, right? I feel like there's the philosophy of like, oh, I'm gonna like hone in each one of these parts as best as I'm
Right.
tunnel vision, or I'm like, I'm okay with this song sucking until the very end, right?
Yeah.
And when it all starts to come together.
Yeah.
So I'm saying is you had him be able to structure a song out very quickly, right? So I'm asking you was your ability to be excited about that because of the fact that it was already structured out in a quick matter versus if it took him a very long time to structure it out, do you think you wouldn't have been as excited to finish it?
Oh, right, because he kind of had the emotional trick of keeping me in it by not taking too long, right? Yeah, that's interesting. That probably plays a role too. The fact that, even being there with him, listening to everything that he listened to as he was doing it, it still wasn't too much, right? Like, still by the end of it, it was exciting and new to me. I think that plays a role, definitely. I've always been one of the guys who I try to make a 4-bar or 8-bar loop fucking airtight, really, because I know that future me is going to come back to this and be like, yes, this is something I want to invest my time in because I know there's 80 hours ahead of finishing it, or no. And while I'm hot on it, let's just make it fucking amazing. So future Niles is excited. That's my real name, by the guy, Niles. Is excited and can come back and give it the shot that it deserves. I'm always playing this game with future me and present me. Like, I'm trying to bounce it out so future me doesn't have to go back in the project because that's an obstacle. Make it bounce so future me knows this is a good one, you know? And then I come back. I'm trying to pitch the best pitch I can to future me to invest it to all the time it's going to be needed to do it. And so I guess that's why I justify spending a lot of time on just the 4-bar loop,
I saw this really interesting interview with John Mayer.
Yeah.
And he says that he doesn't even have to like his own ideas anymore because the way he thinks about it is his taste hasn't evolved enough to like the idea that he presently made.
Okay.
So I really like that kind of idea, and I brought it up because you said that you don't know what your future Niles is going to think about the present idea. You know?
Yeah.
But he's like, because I'm similar production style to you. He's a little bit more like I can get the whole big picture first.
Yeah.
But I want it to feel as good as it possibly can. I mean, not all the way, but I want to feel as good as it possibly can so I can stay excited because I feel like I lose excitement if
I'm hearing a bunch of sections that sound like boo-boo. Yeah.
But if somebody else is doing that and I'm on the couch and I'm waiting, it's kind of nice because you have that sort of like let that person sort of structure it all out and then you can come in and kind of do the finer detail stuff.
Right, yeah.
What's up, guys? Want to take a quick break from nerding out to tell you about our brand new Black Friday special, ONLYBASS. If you are a bass producer in need of some serious inspiration and next level sound design, this bundle is for you. All presets are drop ready, including macros and drop rhythms that can be customized for endless possibilities. With over 500 filthy basses, you'll be surprised at how fast you finish. Stop scrolling through washed up SERUM presets and start making drops hard again. You don't even need to hide this purchase from your boyfriend or girlfriend. Stop gooning and start producing. Trust me, you'll be exploding with new ideas. P.S. There's absolutely no plucks, no pads, just drop-ready basses for your next track. Now let's get you back into the episode.
So I wonder too, when we were talking about, you as far as like, wanting to sort of maybe like look at yourself and realize how you can grow as a producer.
Yeah.
I wonder for like when you're somebody like you who has like a lot of experience producing, right? You said like going back to being a student.
Yeah.
Are there people that you can check in with as far as like you had a mentor at one point, you had Dylan, right?
Yeah.
And obviously when you're successful, it's probably a little bit different. You don't really have, I don't know if you have mentors anymore, or do you have people who does Kashmir go to when he wants to bounce off an idea for a song that he's really excited about, to get an honest reaction instead of from like a girl who doesn't know, or maybe to sit in a room with somebody and just like watch and just sort of like be there and be like, oh, that's cool. You do this. I never thought about doing that. Do you have anybody like that still to this day? Or is that a lot harder with being successful in the music industry?
It's a great question. I play my music a lot. I play it for Max, who's here. I'll play it for Anthony, who's my best friend, who's not a music guy, but we align a lot on our musical taste. And I'll play it for my manager. His opinion's okay.
Yeah, managers
sorry,
are
Luke.
tough.
Yeah, sometimes I regret playing it for. I'm sorry, Luke. You're
most
great.
people say the same thing. So
yeah. I remember when I was working on my album Harmonica Andromeda, and I just thought it was the best thing. I still think it's really wonderful. I played it for my guy who was doing my social media at the time, and I played him through the album, and he said, "There's some good ideas in there."
Some good ideas in there.
Oh my God,
no.
bro! I have thick skin at that point, but that one definitely hurt. You know, there's no question that you get influenced in how you won't hear a song the same if someone said they liked it or didn't like it, or back when radio was a thing, when you hear a song on the radio, boy, does it sound different. It sounds great, you know, and so you have to be careful about how much input you let in, because you know, Jimi Hendrix and Paul McCartney, these guys they weren't pollsters. They didn't take a poll every time they wrote a lyric. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So you gotta be careful about that. But when it comes to like production stuff, which is a little bit more like, you know, you might have your direction you're taking, but they could just tell you the kick and the bass aren't working or some stuff like that. So there's the guy who mixes my records, Bob Sandee, who lives in Holland, and he's a great mixer. Played for him. It's funny, as I'm saying it, there's not a lot of other DJs and contemporaries like my peers that I'm really sending music to.
Wow.
And maybe I should. I think it's because I don't want to bug them with like rough versions of shit, you know?
I feel like that happens a lot. And you're successful. I would imagine, at least.
Yeah, I should do it more. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know why. The same way you picked up and call, you know, texted. I should just go for it. I don't know why I don't do it. For starting today, I'm gonna do that.
Like, what if? And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to like give you advice, but I just think about like, okay, so it's going to be insanely valuable for me as a producer to sit here and watch you open up projects that you've done. Yeah. Like, that is so valuable to me as a producer. Fuck the podcast, fuck Excellent Sound. Yeah. I'm excited to see how you produce. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if I had a chance to sit in a room with you and just literally sit on a fucking couch, not say a goddamn word, and just watch Niles do what he does, right? Yeah. I wonder if at a level of success to where you have, if you still have that ability to do that with somebody and to just enjoy, even if maybe they're not as successful as you, or maybe it's just somebody you appreciate the way that they produce, and just sit there and just sort of be quiet and just be a student and just watch and see what they do. Yeah, I wish I could do it more. I mean, I do sometimes, you know, like I'll do sessions with people, and I love just watching them go and picking up little tricks that they do, and they have like their go-tos, you know. They have their go-tos that they've worked on that become staples of their music over the years, and I have mine, and it's just like, I don't know. It's like a different universe, a parallel universe where like you could have had these go-tos and that shaped that kind of their sound and everything, and seeing how that works for them, and you know, seeing how like groovy the shit they make is, you know, and how that comes natural to him. Groove, like the Vault was also, he's kind of fresh in my mind because he just worked on him. He'd play stuff in and leave it fairly unquantized, you know, and I was like, well, that gives me anxiety, you know. But I'm like, but when he does it, it sounds good, you know, and I guess because he did it, it gave me the approval on a psychological level to do it, you know, and so I found myself doing that more. And so that's, because when it's just you, there's a lot of self-doubt, and sometimes you can default to what the safest option is, right? But then you see someone else do it, and you're like, oh, it's okay. He did it. He didn't die. Right. He has a career. He didn't die.
Yeah, you know.
Isn't that funny? You do feel like, I mean, not that you're going to die, but it does feel like I'm not allowed to do that. Yeah. Oh, but wait, he just did it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Breaking rules.
Yeah.
On the Dylan video, we broke all the rules. That was the headline, right?
Yes. Yeah. Glad you saw that, and that we worked really hard on that thumbnail.
Yeah.
That was a hooky thumbnail.
Yes,
dude.
let's go.
That was a hooky thumbnail.
So it's working. We're trying hard to step up the thumbnail game.
Yeah. Dude, so I wanted to shift gears a little bit.
Yes.
Where did the sample packs even start from, man? Because we have our own story of like why we started sample packs, but like I really want to know like Kashmir Volume 1. Yeah. Like how did that idea come about?
Yeah, well, so I'll just trace it back to the very beginning of when I was first making music. You only got sample packs by ordering CDs offline. You get a CD, I'd get like Saxophones Volume 2, and I'd have like 60 saxophone loops that were going to be the next 50 beats I made, right? We're just going to be all around, or basses, or whatever, you know. And then Barnes and Noble would start having them on the magazines. And you remember when the CDs were attached?
Oh, that's right. Like Future Music would have sample CDs on them and stuff like
and
that.
I worked at the Macaroni Grill across the street from the Barnes and Noble, so I'd go over there, and the people working there didn't even know about the CD. I just take off the CDs and I'd fucking take them home. But that was the only way I could get samples. You know, I didn't have any money or anything. So sample packs were like, it was like my version of getting a new toy, you know, as I went deeper and deeper into music. It's all I wanted. All I asked my mom for, you know, is equipment or sample packs. Really, mostly sample packs, because in the beginning, I didn't even know how to play chords or anything. All I was doing in the beginning of music was putting samples over each other, right? So a new sample pack exponentially increased what I was capable of creating. So now you fast forward to Splice, who originally started out as a collaboration platform. So in the beginning, they didn't have a marketplace for samples or anything. They just wanted to make it easier if I have a project and we want to share with each other to fill in the gaps of like all the files you have to collect and give it to each other and stuff. That was their original thing. Then they introduced the marketplace and they told me about that. And I was like, yo, that sounds like a great idea. Where are you getting these samples from? And they said, we did a license deal. So all of these existing libraries we're licensing over to Splice. You're going to take a chance on us to do this library subscription kind of thing. And they were like, would you want to do a sample pack? And I was like, well, you know, I'd actually was in the process of putting all my favorite sounds into one folder, and I was thinking that maybe it'd be a sample pack I release for free or sell, or I don't know. But I was like, why don't I do it with you guys? And you could have your own original sample pack on there, and that'd be it was really a right time, right place kind of thing. And as I was getting into dance music, like I had this very clear idea. This is what a good kick sounds like. It's punchy. It's got the transient. I had gotten some that were, I don't know if they were from him, we called Zed's kick, or we called this kick, or Showtech kick, or whatever. And, you know, I mean, I changed them a little bit, but let's be honest. I was kind of just taking my favorite sounds, editing them a little bit, and then putting them all in one place. And and that was Volume 1. And then when Volume 1 became very, very popular, sort of by virtue of the fact it was the only pack that they had up there. Their only pack of their own. So they were promoting it a lot, you know, and I was kind of like a hot new DJ, so it was good for them too. And come Volume 2, I was like, well, you know, I want to put some Indian sounds. I want to do this and that. And it ballooned, you know, it got 3 times big. And then by Volume 3, I was like, I want to put every fucking sound that you could possibly need when you're producing in one place. It became like, I didn't want this just to be a sample pack. It wasn't money oriented or anything. It was like, I want to make the ultimate sample pack, kind of like as a big win for the kid that, you know, that got such an excitement out of getting it in the mail. I want to make like the ultimate one where if people just had this sound pack, they can make pretty much anything. So I started to like record with all these different instrumentalists, and took a lot of time to think about different genres. And Volume 3 is really when I started getting into different genres, hip hop and everything, and Song Starters came out then. And it was honestly a nice break from making music also, because when you make songs, it's a lot of pressure. This song is going to represent you. You're going to play. It's going to be your single for the next few months and everything. There's a lot of pressure. You want to make it good. With the sound pack, all you got to do is make one little loop, and someone out there, you know, could take it and make their own song with it. And you're getting like it's a nice dopamine system. Because you spend 20, 30 minutes making a cool sound, and then you put it in the folder and you're done. You know, so you're hitting touchdowns all the time. It's not like, you know, the skill of hitting touchdowns with making songs is something that young producers struggle with a lot, because you haven't even scored a touchdown yet, and you're putting all this work into making a song, and you're doubting yourself all along the way. And as you finish songs, you understand that reward system. Although it's more macro, the work is worth it, because you get a song at the end, and then the song becomes something, and so you have the drive there to score that long touchdown. But we're talking about 2-yard touchdowns here with the fucking sample pack. I love it. It's a nice break when I want to learn also, like we were talking about before. Now I'm working on Volume 5, and you know, I'll spend weeks, and I can show you guys some of that process and what goes into that too. Spending weeks working with these incredible instrument players, right? Like I was telling you, working with the drummer from A Perfect Circle on this one. You're just recording acoustic drums. So it's like, I don't know, I get to go on the safari of all these. When I would never work with the duduk player and a clarinet player and the live acoustic drummer, you know, a drum kit guy. I just wouldn't work with all these people, because I'm sitting there in my box. It brings me out of my box when I work on this. And I start learning about all the new genres that people are really into, and not just that we're going to do a version of it, but we're going to listen to the best sound packs out there and try to deliver people the best version of, like, you know, everything that's going on, Afro house or drum and bass, you know, all these things. It's not enough to just do it. You got to talk to the guys who really do it. You make friends with the producers who really do it, and they tell you what the weak shit sounds like and what the good shit sounds like. And you enlist them also. So I did a week where it was a week of like the Ableton Avengers, basically, where I got all the guys who are just super sick at sound design. It was a mixture of like guys who are really making pop records and getting placements and stuff, mixed with guys who are like Dank Sauce, you know, his stuff.
Yeah, we know Dank Sauce.
Yeah, so
He's
he was
awesome.
there. Zen World, the Beep Beep, What's Up Ninjas guy, he was there. You know, all in one room, and we're just cranking out sounds every day and playing on everybody's strengths the best that we can. And you learn a lot, you know. I learn a lot about my own limitations, and but slowly I try to pick up on their skill, like you were saying, working with other producers. So it's a really rewarding process, the creation of it, and then also seeing the samples go out and become big songs. You know, people ask me like, oh, like the DJ Snake song Taki Taki like has like a gajillion views, you know, like you got paid off. I was like, no.
Yeah, royalty free.
I got paid 25 cents to sell them that sound or something. But the reward to know that, like, beyond my own music, I'm playing some role, right? In helping the next guys create their songs, create the magic. And as long as I have enough money to like eat every day, and I'm leaving a footprint on music and helping people make, I'm good. I'm really legitimately, it's not like my therapist told me to say this answer.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with that.
But it's also like millions of people get to collaborate with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That they would never get that chance to even meet you. Like, it's not humanly possible to
You're not going to make all those songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they can be made now with that little, like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
So I got a pretty hard question for you.
Yeah.
So we were talking about touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
So what pays more, a hit song or a hit sample pack?
Oh,
because you have the views from both. You know what I'm saying? We haven't had the chance to have a hit song like a G6 or you know, Tsunami or something like that. You know, so we don't know that perspective from it.
You know, Tsunami was a hit song in the dance world, but G6 was a hit song in the pop world, which is just a
completely different
ball game. And especially with radio being a thing at the time, I'm not sure how that would equate to like Spotify views and everything now.
Yeah.
But that radio money was huge, and it's a whole different level.
A whole ball game.
Yeah, I mean. You know, I put in perspective, I had to split that song with other people, and I still bought a house from it and a car from it and everything else, and the song still pays. And, you know, like Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg did a movie and did a dance-off to it, got paid off of that, you know, and the TikTok trend with I Want a Man in Finance or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
You know, got paid off of that. It kind of just keeps going. So yeah, I mean, if you make music in general, some of them are gonna do well, and then you'll eventually wind up with, I think, a good life where you just get these little checks, you know. But G6 and that level of hit that was, I mean, it was #1 on the Hot 100. It's like it was like the peak, you know, thing you could possibly do. Really distorted my sense of how music works. Yeah. Because I was like, oh, you know, I just make a hit and it's just the #1 song in the fucking 12 countries, you know. And, you know, I got hit with the humble stick after that to really be fighting for songs that chart. But no, it's a different level. But for me, the Soundpack game has been really good to me, you know, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if is it weird to talk about numbers or something?
No, dude. I don't think it is.
I would say that with all the sound packs, it probably comes out to more than $500,000 a year or something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you're a producer and you're not using Project File remakes to help you get better, what are you doing? Remakes and Project Files are a great way for producers to hone their skills in song structure, sound design, and mixing and mastering. I know it's helped us out a ton and continues to sharpen our skills every single day. So if you're looking for the most accurate remake Project Files and a ton of exclusive presets and sounds, then you gotta gotta check out our Patreon. We upload a ton of new content every single month for producers. From custom unreleased sounds and producer interviews to project files, SERUM presets, and racks. And don't forget, every single month you can post your track for feedback. When you join our Patreon, you get access to our entire catalog of sounds since 2018. That's 6 years worth of content, and you get to jump right into it. Go check out the link in the description and find the tier that best suits you. Everything we get from our Patreon, we reinvest back into to get better guests and a lot more tutorials and content for you guys. And one last thing before we go, we just uploaded 2 huge project files that includes 20 Wook style drops in celebration of our brand new pack, Drops Only Wook Edition. There are a ton of drops in there for you guys to open up and start messing around and learning from. And don't forget, all the awesome presets and sounds are included in the folder as well. Thanks for your support, and let's jump back into the video. So like, as somebody that's, I think what's interesting too, as far as like what Parker is I think kind of getting at too, is like, so like you have a lot of ways to make it into the music industry, right? There's a lot of different channels that we have now, at least in the electronic platform, right? There wasn't a lot of that back in the day, right? Yeah. So I feel like, you know, for something like us, we wanted to make music as like a production thing. And then we found this avenue through Excellent Sound where we get to talk to producers that we look up to, and we get to also sell sample packs and still also produce music for people. But I wonder too, which at the time didn't feel like a very, very standard route to go. And I think what I'm piggybacking off of what Parker is saying is, do you think for some of these people at home that might be thinking about starting a music career, right? Do you think it's advantageous for them to think about it? Maybe it's not necessarily about the money, right? But maybe let's just say building a career that you can actually live off of music.
Sustainable career.
Sustainable. Do you think it's and I think this is why he's asking that. Do you think it's advantageous for them to go down that route, to go try to start making like a sample pack company versus trying to come out with like a G6?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you think as advice, like, is it worth it for somebody to go down just that route? Like, do you think you would have maybe gone down just the route of sample packs if you knew that they would be as successful as they were before you had like a G6?
No, I mean, I think for me, being
I don't know if I over-explained that.
No,
Sorry.
no, I know what you mean, because you know, sometimes the music career just isn't really happening, you know, and you see people explore the other avenues because, hey, at least I'm making some money. I'm still doing something with music. For me, it was very important to have my face kind of on the front of it, or even if my face isn't there, to have something I'm saying, you know, like a creative thing that I'm standing behind, that I, you know, that I'm like betting who I am on, you know.
Like a legacy sort of?
Like a legacy sort of thing, you know. Having something to say, feeling that I have something important to offer to, you know, music, just besides the tools for other people to make their music. But, you know, it's tricky because I see it. I even think about myself. The more tutorials and stuff pop up on my Instagram feed, am I not the cool guy that I used to be when I first came out and I was mysterious? No, it's a real thing that I think about.
Interesting.
You know, and does it take away from you when you're trying to be like a cool, mysterious artist, and then you're like, hey guys, here's how I made the synth. You know, is it like one step forward, 2 steps back a little bit? And maybe, honestly, the answer might be maybe you want to kind of bifurcate those things and have them be separate. I'm not really sure what the answer is. I think being cool and mysterious was very important to me when I first launched, and was probably kind of instrumental in me launching my career as Kashmir. It had an aura about it, you know, and you definitely are trying to get people to buy into more than just the music. It's not in a corny, cheesy way, but it's like an art project. It's an emotion that people are coming to you to get, and you're the provider of it, you know. So if they see what you eat for breakfast every day, and now and here are guys, I'm on Ableton and stuff, you know, you're sort of you may be watering that down, right? You know, you're that emotion that you want to be specific for them to go to you for. But for me, it couldn't have just been the business side. I knew I wanted to be an artist. That was very important to me. I looked up to guys who did that really well. You know, the magic of Daft Punk and you know, guys who, even Porter. You know, Porter is like, man, aesthetically so tight, right?
He really is.
We were just talking about Porter. It's so funny you bring him up.
Yeah, he's a guy. What were you guys saying?
Oh, we just saw him live at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, cool.
And I was expecting a DJ set.
Yeah.
And he had a full band.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
and it was like a pop punk show, and
Yeah.
everybody's singing along, and like it was awesome. It was amazing.
He's on like, and I think he would laugh at this too, at least from what I've seen. I've never met the guy, but he's on like the autism level of like good at music. Like,
Oh,
he
man,
is
he's
so,
insane.
so
Yeah.
talented, right?
Yeah.
Would love to get a chance to talk to him sometime, but yeah, like
Yeah.
just a respect level.
he likes to do stuff like this, I think.
Yeah, it'd be cool if we could get
Yeah.
him sometime, but
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to him one time, and because I just think he's such a genius.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like music theory kind of stuff, and he's like, my favorite chord is one where I'd play this chord and then this chord on top of it, which was kind of cool because I'm sure there's a name for it, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
it's like an 11 chord or
Right.
something, you know. But he didn't know.
Uh-huh.
You know, he liked the way that sounded. I thought it was so great. It reminds me, I'm a huge Beatles fan, and there's I think it was Hard Day's Night or something. There's a chord that starts it off. It's kind of a funky chord before the main song kicks in. And they were asking him what chord it was, and he was like, "Well, I play a G minor, but you got to ask him because he plays the other note on
Right.
bass, and the other guy's playing the other note, and it makes it they don't even fucking know,
Yeah.
you know."
Yeah.
Just on the Beatles tip, did you guys watch the Disney thing that came out where it's barely a documentary? It's just them making music, and it's like unedited, basically.
Yes.
Oh, is that them in the studio?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
doing
I
all
didn't
the
watch that, but
songwriting
I saw some
sessions.
clips. It looks pretty cool, interesting. Yeah.
It is so inspiring because
Really?
they're sitting there. You've been in songwriting sessions where you're writing lyrics and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they're doing it for like legendary songs. They're doing it for like Get Back, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, man, it was a man who thought he was an owner, but he wasn't good in that or that. And he's like, I think we should. He was like, at first he was a farmer. He's like, let's make it more specific. That would sound cool. Let's say JoJo. JoJo be that. And you think these songs are like
Yeah.
so rich with history and references. They're just sitting there like, this would sound cooler. I'm just
Yeah.
going to say that this one sings better, right? You know, they're just like us.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
That is cool.
Yeah.
That is
Watch them
inspiring.
like figure it out, and
Yeah.
then they land on the melody or the rhythm.
Yeah, and
Like,
you hear them land on the right lyric.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's it.
Yeah.
Stop. You know, he's singing like Let It Be. And you're like, this is a song that's going to be sung at funerals. And, you know,
Yeah.
you don't even you can't grasp how big this song you're writing is. And he's fucking up the words, you know? It's like crazy. Yeah.
That would be cool. I would like to watch that. That is an interesting sort of what's the word? That is just an interesting dissection of watching that and realizing that it's like it is. Sometimes we connect so deeply to songs, and we just think that there's this like this amazing thing that happened that they're just
Right.
reaching deep down in their soul. And I still believe that it is from the
Yeah.
soul, but it's not. It's very much just like, oh yeah, I said this because I thought it sounded better.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny to think about that and that makes you feel better as a producer. Like, oh yeah, like.
Yeah.
I don't always have to be this like John Lennon. We think of this guy that's just like this.
It's not that
artist.
they have some you don't.
Yeah, exactly. And also too, I just wanted to say this like back on like the kind of jumping back into the sample pack thing, like
Yeah.
just I think a general like thing that I'm sure you probably know, but like just as like for speaking for the producer community, just like a very, very much like respect and thanks to you for coming out with your packs because
thanks, man.
I really feel like when you talked about coming out with a pack that gave a producer everything that they would need, I
Yeah.
think before your sample packs is that you would maybe find some good sample packs and they had some good stuff that you would grab, but once your pack started coming out, it made an impact. I mean, everybody would just, do you have the Kashmir pack? Do you have the Kashmir
Yeah.
pack? Let me give it to you, right? If you didn't have it, right?
Yeah.
And I think,
Motherfuckers.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I want to talk to you about that
No,
too.
no,
we
it's
got a lot of
okay.
off-camera shit that I think we need to talk about just
Okay.
from being a
Yeah,
sample
sure,
company
sure,
shit that I would love to pick your brain on.
Sure.
But yeah, I just think that for us, we came out with a sample pack, and one of the more successful packs that we had, we actually used your pack as a reference. It's like, what is Kashmir doing? His packs are so good. Why is it? And the thing that we realized was because you were offering a lot of different things in a multi-genre pack.
Yeah.
And that was very, very game-changing for us as a company trying to make a really good sample pack. And
Yeah.
it was that idea of actually giving producers what they would need, right?
Yeah.
And other cool stuff to inspire them to come out with new ideas.
Yeah.
So I just think just in general, like I don't know if you know this, but like the producer community like thanks you like very, very, very
for sure.
like the Kashmir packs are huge, and it's anybody that's new to producing and they don't have any sample packs, it's the first sample pack I'm gonna tell them to get.
Thank you, man.
100%. And I think a lot of people at home would agree with that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
There's a lot of effort you can tell that goes into
I
them.
think that I've set myself up now. I make these really comprehensive packs, but I think that when I'm getting packs, I still like guys who just make a very specific thing. So if I'm gonna make a tech house track or whatever, like maybe I go with the Alchemist stuff and
sure.
So I don't think it always needs to be this Goliath of a pack, and there are definitely problems that come with making it so big. One thing that is frustrating for me sometimes is a lot of times I want to categorize stuff in two ways, put in two folders.
Yeah.
Like just because the way that you're thinking, right? Like sometimes you want to think hip hop and you just want all the hip hop related samples to be in one place. But then other times you're looking for claps and then you want your claps to have like maybe trap claps in there and be divided. But you can't make a pack where you're duplicating samples all over the place and it's tough. The art of organizing it in a way, is something I really appreciate, that organizing in a way that that is the least resistance when somebody's working, gets them to what they want the quickest. And Splice, God bless you guys, I love you, but are brutal when it comes to organization, because I'll do this really detailed organization, and then when it gets to Splice, it really has to get simplified.
The one shots and the drum. Yes, I hate that
and
too.
it's rough. Yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty rough. And even going through your Splice samples, they're all in 5 folders deep into
it's
one.
not easy. Yeah.
It's crazy. So guys, if you're hearing this, maybe you could work on that. So when you're thinking about making sound packs, do you try to incorporate multiple genres a lot, or do you try to make it specific? Here's maybe a genre going on now, we're gonna just tackle that.
We do both, but like I said, the most, I would say, successful, in our experience, successful packs that we've had have always been a multi-genre pack. And it's funny because I don't think the people at home realize the struggle that somebody goes through when they're making a sample pack of how much thought you put into making sure that the workflow is easy for the producer.
Right.
There's little things, and not to knock on other companies, but there's things that I see other companies doing when it comes to samples where it's like their volumes are like all over the place.
Crazy, yeah.
Or their presets are in different, like, I know you don't do a ton of presets. I know you've done some, but like, for instance, their presets are in C0, C3, C2, like where it's supposed to sound good. Little things like that people don't think about that actually makes like, and also just even you said the workflow of the folders, like that type of stuff is so important, and how it's labeled. It's like, that stuff is so valuable to me, and just knowing as like a person that makes, sample packs and knowing the struggle of which you're going through, it's so nice to hear somebody else that gets it.
There is a really nice random little app you can get for Mac. It's called Two Wave Converter, that within 1 minute will take 3,000 sounds and normalize them all, and it's amazing.
See, this is why we need to be friends.
Yes.
We got to have this. We have to have a serious conversation off camera. There's so
sick.
many things that I need to ask you.
And if
It's
they're
like
at different like sample rates or whatever, it'll fix that.
Oh
for
my
you.
God.
Oh, that's incredible.
But that's the things that other people don't realize.
we don't talk.
We're arguing about where to put the drum loops folder.
Yeah.
Do we put it in the drums folder, or do we put it in the loops folder?
What is a top loop?
You
Does
know?
a top loop have a snare, or maybe it's just cymbals? But wait, is this a cymbal loop,
Oh
or is this
my
like you
God.
go into this neurotic sense of like
Top loops are a tough one, right? Because sometimes you got a drum loop, but you want the top loop right next to it.
yes,
Yep.
But then,
Exactly.
do
Same
you want a
top
top loops folder?
right.
So what the fuck is a top loops folder?
Yeah.
Exactly,
So it's all these orphaned top loops. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, well, this bass shop feels like, because we try to like because that's what we learned from you.
Yeah.
Is like, you had your kicks, you had punchy kicks.
Yes.
And
yeah,
when I
right.
heard the kick, I was like, that's a punchy kick.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, I love that idea. So then we would try to do genre. We'd be like,
Yeah.
okay, well, this is a dubstep kick.
Yeah.
This is, it's like you're saying, a trap clap. Well,
Yeah.
wait, does it belong in the hip hop clap category?
Yeah, right.
You know,
right.
all that shit just like,
I know.
I love it,
At a
but I
certain
hate
point,
it.
you just hope that every folder has enough good shit that they're not
Yeah.
disappointed when they go into it. I was proud of one term that I coined, the exhaust. I think.
Yes.
Oh,
that-
yes.
Yeah.
There's
For
another
sure.
one too we got to bring up. But yes, the
Yeah.
exhaust, I love those.
Because I needed a word for it, and I landed on exhaust, and now I see other packs.
We
do
use that
it.
all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, it's
Cool.
so funny.
Yeah.
We literally talked about the word exhaust
You
before
really?
you got
Because
here.
it's not
Oh,
an
yeah.
impact,
Yeah.
right? An
Yeah.
impact's
No.
got a deep low, but it's an exhaust.
And it's
is
not a
white
sweep
noise.
down. It's
No.
not a down sweep.
Yes.
It's kind of like a crash of noise that sustains.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big snares too, which I used to just call them Prida snares, but not a lot of people knows what that is, or
Yeah.
Prid snares or whatever.
That's what I would call them too. Yeah.
And what was the other one that I always loved that you did? Hold on, I'm drawing a blank on it right now. We were just talking about exhaust. I used to call them like CO2 and shit, but
Yeah.
give me
Is
a
it like
minute,
an
I'll
effect?
remember. I think it is. God damn it! See,
It'll come back to
it'll
you.
come back.
It'll
I'll
come back
bring it
to
up
you.
when it comes back.
Sure. Yeah.
Talk about something else so I can think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
no.
animals folder I'm so proud of.
That was cool.
But I don't know who's fucking using it. But every time we do it, we spend a lot of time on the animals folder just because I think it's so cool. And there was one in particular that I always wanted to make a beat. You know, I did this hip hop album in India, and I tried to sell people on this one beat that I did with it. But what I did is I took these monkeys and I had all these ooh ooh ooh, but I had like a round robin of it. So they were all playing like a C. I had pitched them to a C, and depending on the velocity that you hit, it would go through different samples. So I would play like a melody that ooh ah 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 ah, and it was fucking, and I was doing like chords with it and
Dude.
shit, and I thought it was so nasty, but nobody cared.
I love
that stuff.
your new technique for making claps.
Oh.
I saw like a hidden video
Oh.
about some new technique. You want to share it with the
Yeah,
people?
so that was the Ableton Avengers, the week that we had everyone recording.
Ableton
and
Avengers?
Yeah, when we were all in the house together, and we had set up all these mics, and we were recording group chants, and then we did also like group drum, like clap stuff, and then a couple of the bigger guys with, had some fucking bellies, and we recorded some claps just slapping their bellies, and we got
Nice.
good claps out of it.
Slapping the belly.
I
Then
love
we
that.
had belly claps recorded with the C800 Sony.
$10,000 mic.
Like $10,000 mic. We had that 87 in there. We had like a stereo pair getting the sides.
Oh
Right.
my
And
gosh.
yeah, actually, recording instruments, now I'm multi-mic. Do you guys, when you record instruments, do you always multi-mic? Like, let's say it's like a sax or it's a violin or something. Do you always multi-mic? Or?
Yeah, I usually do.
Yeah.
Sax. I actually recorded sax on Sunday.
Yeah.
And my favorite is I just did a TLM 103 on the
Okay.
on the
Don't they
top
have
of the
those
bell.
clip-on ones now too. With
No, I don't like the
TLM's
clips.
a Neumann?
Yeah, the Neumann.
I just got the Neumann stereo pair. I forget what it's called, but
The
the
pencils.
pencil mics. Yeah.
The 184s.
yeah, they're thin. The tube, they look like a stereo. They look
Yeah.
like Chopes, and everything has the
Yeah,
same kind of.
those are
look.
nice.
Yeah, I haven't used them yet, but yeah, just got them, and I'm ready to be done with the Sony also. The C800.
Is it too sterile?
It's too bright, I think, and there's some voices it works great on, but I think I'm gonna go with the Telefunken.
251.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a buyer right now for C800. Yeah.
Are you looking for like a vintage 251?
No,
Or are you gonna look for like a
either the Universal Audio or the Upton. I heard is good too.
Upton is the way. Dude.
The Upton's the way.
That's the one.
Okay, wow. Okay, yeah.
I was literally just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The UA. I didn't know that UA has one. Is it a?
Yes, it's not just called the UA. It's a different name, but I think Universal Audio makes it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I would definitely go with the Upton.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
like trending right now too.
Yeah.
In the boutique-y mic world.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The Kate Upton.
Yeah. Exactly. The Kate Upton.
The Kate
I remember what it is that you coined now after you said clap. So I just want to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it was snare enhancers.
Oh, drum enhancers.
Drum
in
enhancers,
general.
sorry,
Yeah,
yes.
drum
Drum
enhancers. Yeah.
So I use that
Yeah.
for snare enhancers because I was like, I love that. The drum enhancers, the stuff that you could layer on top of your drums to
Yeah.
make really cool. I love that. I don't know if you came up with that, but I thought that was great.
Yeah, I think I came up with it. It probably came out of working with a group of guys, and I don't know who said it first, but I think Sully is a guy that and he makes his own music too.
Yeah.
And he's so dope with drums, and there's always lots of like random texture in there, and I was like, why don't we just make those sounds their own thing,
Yeah.
And so yeah.
I'm super excited to get to the production.
Yeah.
You know, we talk shop
Yes.
just a little bit, like real quick, but like now We'll have the computer open.
Yeah.
We can get into the nitty gritty.
Do you want to close it out and then we'll fucking?
No, you close it out.
Okay.
This is your.
So
your
hopefully
turn.
you guys enjoyed the podcast. Stay tuned. Thank you so much, Niles, for coming.
Yeah,
Obviously,
man.
we got more to do. Can't
Yes,
wait
sir.
to have you open up some projects. We're gonna have that in a separate video, probably for people to check it out. Obviously, check out Kashmir and what you're doing. We love you,
Check
bro.
me out, man.
Super excited. Thank you
All
for
right.
taking the cold call and not being a weirdo. I'm
No,
sorry for being a
dude.
weirdo.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
no,
glad
not at
you're
all,
here.
man.
It's amazing.
Cool. All right, we'll see you guys in the next video. Like, subscribe, comment. We're out.